All right, so this program is certified for continuing ed credits for attorneys and guardians and a couple other groups. And so we'll be sending out certificates afterwards. And of course, we always submit for the guardians. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get started. Okay, and if somehow that muting happens again, please, Brandon, come across and let me know. I'm sorry about that. So today we're talking about Social Security disability benefits. Many of you have clients, awards, patients that might be collecting Social Security disability, SSI or SSDI. So we're going to talk about the differences of what those really are. My name is Sharon Rich. I'm the Senior Trust Advisor with AGID. I've been here about 11 years now. My background is as a trust officer for over 30 years. And at AGID, our primary business is managing special needs trusts. So all of our clients have some sort of disability. Many of them are under 65 and on one of these types of programs that we're going to talk about today. Or there are seniors that have a lot of medical conditions and need to qualify for Medicaid. So that's what a special needs trust is all about, is helping people qualify for Medicaid. Please use this as a resource. We like to help people, help professionals kind of understand and talk through situations. So feel free to call us anytime. Again, we're going to talk about SSI, SSDI, who can qualify, what the requirements are, what benefits come with each program, and what happens when you sometimes convert from SSI to SSDI, and talk a little bit about the age of 18 and what's important to think about. Just wanted to, remind you all that I am not an attorney. We are not attorneys here at AGID. So we are not intending to give you legal advice, but we hope it's very beneficial for you. Okay, this is just another kind of summary of what we're going to talk about. This is a great page with resources. socialsecurity.gov has a lot of really good, sorry about that. A lot of really good all right, hold on. Did I forget to put my phone on do not disturb? Sorry. Okay, they have great information on their website, and compassionate allowances is something we're going to talk about. The Red Book has a lot of employment related information in it about working while you're disabled. The Blue Book talks more about the impairments of disability. These PALMs for Social Security is their operating manual. A lot of the regulations that govern disability and special needs trusts and what's allowed and how Social Security does things is in their operations manual. And then survivor benefits, we're not going to talk about today, but I put a link in there in case you are interested in what benefits are available for survivors when a spouse or somebody dies. There are two main types of Social Security disability benefits. This is all administered by the Social Security Administration. These SSDI is technically Social Security Disability Insurance, and SSI is called Supplemental Security Income. The first steps to determining disability is to get a medical diagnosis of disability. So when you apply to Social Security, which you do that online, I've got a little slide at the end here on that. Their first step is for them to determine if they really think you meet the definition of disability. If yes, then the second step is have you worked enough to be considered to be insured? So if yes, then they're going to go on and probably put you on the SSDI program, which gives you Medicare after 2 years, not Medicaid, but Medicare, but you have to wait 2 years. With the SSI program, again, when you determine to be disabled, then you don't have enough of a work history to get paid based on your own record, then they're going to look to
that. So I explained that.
Can you please make sure that all of your audios are muted?
Thank you. So if you do not have enough of a work record to be paid based on your own record, then they're going to say, well, we can give you SSI benefits if you meet financial eligibility requirements. So you can't have, it's a needs-based program. And we're going to talk about the details of all of this. If you qualify financially then for SSI, they will give, you're entitled to Medicaid. Not Medicare, Medicaid, so two different things. So programs are actually quite different. So what does disability actually mean? The definition is the inability to engage in substantial gainful activity by reason of a medically determined impairment. So you have either a physical or a mental impairment that's expected to either result in death or last for at least 12 months. So basically you're unable to work for at least 12 months and unable to work in substantial gainful activity. Okay. So what do they look at to determine that? Are you working now? In general, substantial gainful activity means you're working and making $1,470 a month or more. Okay, that number is higher if blind. The blind rules for Social Security are a little bit different than the normal rules for disability. So just a little caution there. So they're going to say, okay, you're not working so much. Is your condition severe? It's going to really limit what you can do for at least 12 months. Is your condition found on the list of disabling conditions? Those are the compassionate allowances like acute leukemia, Lou Gehrig's disease, pancreatic cancer are examples. If your condition is one of those, you're going to be able to get a much quicker disability determination. The computer is going to say, okay, well, that automatically qualifies for Social Security disability benefits. Can you do the work you previously did? And can you do any other type of work? So there, you know, a very high percentage of people that apply for disability benefits get denied the first time. I don't know exactly what that number is, but I've heard somewhere between 70, 80+%, which is very, you know, kind of disheartening. Then they have to file an appeal and, you know, try to get Social Security to agree that they're unable to work in substantial gainful activity. Again, these are the numbers for SGA, $1,470 a month. I get a lot of questions. Well, can I work if I'm on Social Security disability? And there are programs that are even run that Social Security recognizes as, yes, you know, you may be able to work. And if you're working a little bit, even at the time of your application, there are some work incentives that may be applied to kind of reduce your actual dollar amount So, they can actually determine that you're under that SGA amount. And there's employment supports. We're going to talk about these. So what are work incentives? These are things that reduce your countable income at the time of application. If you need special transportation because of your disability, that can go into the calculation. Attendant care to get ready for work, and maybe even things like employer breaks, extra time off, those types of things. So those need to be, all submitted, considered, if the person happens to be working at the time of the application for the disability benefits. There's a program called Ticket to Work. Sign up with unemployment networks like a vocational rehabilitation place. These are for people that want to either work a little bit or maybe see if they can work enough to get off of disability benefits. You're allowed to keep your cash benefits and your medical coverage as you transition to the workplace. There's a program manager called Maximus, and the website I've got here at the SSA.gov work has a lot of information about this particular program. So you can have people look at that if they're interested in going back to work. PASS is a Plan to Achieve Self-Support is another program that allows SSI recipients to put aside money to pursue a work goal. So if they're trying to save for maybe some technology or training, education, that kinds of things, PASS is a program that they need to register for, and that maybe allows them to put a little bit of extra money aside. When you're on SSI, you're only allowed to have $2,000 in countable assets, so this may allow you to have a little bit more. There's also something called trial work period. Work for 9 months and it doesn't account against your disability benefits. So the Red Book, again, has a lot of employment stuff in it. Before the pandemic, there was supposed to be a work incentive liaison at the Social Security office. Now that the offices are opening back up, I don't know if they've staffed that position or not. I don't know if anybody knows. If you do, put it into the chat for us, please. We can see that at the end. Insured status. So let's talk about what that means. Okay, remember, we've talked about disability. So, okay, the person has been determined to be disabled. Now, Social Security is going to look at your insured status. They're going to look to see how long you've worked. They have tables. So, everybody thinks, oh, you have to work 40 credits to be fully insured. No, that's not right. It depends on actually how old you are when you become disabled. How do you earn credits? You earn credits max of 4 per year. So for every $1,640 in covered earnings, you earn 1 credit, up to 4 credits a year. Now you also, you have to meet a recent work test, and you have to meet a duration work test. And these are all in the tables. Again, if you're blind, then you don't have to do you don't have to meet the recent test. So I'm going to give you an example of what that really looks like. If you're 31 years or older when you become disabled, in general, you need at least 20 credits in the 10-year period immediately before disability. So to meet that recent, you have to have worked within the 10-year period before your disability, at least 20 credits. Okay. Now, if you're younger, say before the age of 24, you're only going to need 6 credits in the 3-year period ending when the disability starts. So the 3 years prior to when your disability, you need 6 credits. So you see, it's not always the same. It really depends on your age. I actually had a former client of mine call me when her trust was running out of money. This is when I worked at the bank, and the gal had not applied for Social Security disability, but she'd been disabled for about 20 years, and she hadn't really worked within the 10-year period. So she wasn't able to get Social Security disability. I told her to go ahead and apply anyway, just to see. But you have to meet, this can't just not work and then 20 years later say, oh, I can't work. Now the duration test, my examples are here, are all off, the Social Security website. So as someone that's age 46 and has to have earned 24 credits, which is the equivalent of 6 years, and 20 of those have to be within the last 10 years. At age 60, if you become disabled, they're going to look for 38 credits, 9.5 years, of which 20 are within the last 10 years. Okay, so you can go to the tables there if you have questions on if someone might qualify. So I pay in like you do, you're working, you pay into the system with our FICA taxes. So that's what entitles you to get this, SSDI, and the payment's going to be based on your work record, how much you have, made or paid into the system. The benefits you automatically get Medicare after 2 years of disability benefits of SSDI. No waiting period if you've got the Lou Gehrig's or end-stage renal disease. You'll get your Medicare right away upon the SSDI. Converts to retirement benefit at full retirement age. So if you're on SSDI and you reach that full retirement age, that's like 67 and 8 months for me now, and your benefit's gonna remain the same. I'm going to talk about disabled adult child benefit. That's important for everybody to understand. You may have a client who is on SSDI, and you're like, well, this person, they never worked. How could they possibly be collecting not SSI, but SSDI? Okay. Here's how it works. If you're age 18 or older and you were disabled prior to the age of 22, okay, and you have an insured parent who starts receiving Social Security retirement, starts receiving is receiving their own disability benefits, or you have a deceased parent who worked enough to qualify for Social Security, you can potentially get this DAC benefit at the time. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So a lot of times someone has SSI. Oh, I have another slide on that. And they have SSI, and then it gets converted to this DAC benefit because their parent it goes into one of these categories, starts receiving retirement or something like that. When do disability payments begin? There's a 5-month waiting period. So your SSDI benefit will be the 6th full month after the date of disability. If you, for example, the government says your disability date onset date was January 15th, you're going to get the initial payment for the month of July, which will be made in August. So if, it takes longer than that to get could take a year, 2 years to actually get the benefit. You'll get retroactive payments back to August. Okay, well, technically the month of July. So it doesn't go back to January. They make you wait like 5 months. Okay. There's a couple exceptions like for ALS. Now, if you get the SSI benefit, again, that's, you haven't worked enough. There's no waiting period for that. So here's SSI, age 65 or older. You can get SSI then, blind or disabled. So you're under 65 population. US citizen or qualified non-citizen. You do not have enough work credits to be considered insured. You must meet the income and the asset requirements. So SSI says you can only have $2,000 in countable assets for an individual. If you're married, they're going to look at the couple. The SSI payment, if you qualify, will be $914 this year for an individual. If you're married, living together, you only get a total of $1,371. When you get your SSI, you are entitled to receive Medicaid. As long as you have $1 in SSI, you're entitled to Medicaid. Okay, so let's talk about under 18. Everything so far has been over 18. Social Security has a different definition for under 18. They're looking at the functional limitations. So you have an impairment results in severe functional limitation that's expected to last at least 12 months or result in death. Again, there's compassionate allowance list, and you have to meet the income and resource limits. So you've got someone under 18, they are going to look at the family members and the child living in the household, and they are going to count the income and resources of those family members, the household. So this is often why someone under the age of 18 that does have a disability cannot get SSI benefits. Sometimes they can, right? So that all changes at the age of 18 though. Usually, the child gets SSI, they're going to get the Medicaid. And it's important to get redetermined at age 18. Children with developmental disabilities prior to the age of 18 should look at applying for APD services. Generally, you apply between the ages of 5 and 18. They have their own list of disabilities. And they have a wait list also. One of the ways to get moved to the top of the wait list is to have a crisis situation. And then you have to, go back and talk to APD about your crisis. If a spot opens up, then you have to apply for Medicaid. But at that point, the household income and resources do not count. So the rules change a little bit. Even if you're under 18, if you get the APD spot, then the household income's not going to count. So you can qualify for Medicaid. You're going to get your Medicaid through iBudget or CBC Plus. And the thing about the APD services, it's going to provide additional care. It's not just medical Medicaid. It's the iBudget waiver supports, the individuals with the disabilities. That's pretty much how they get the Medicaid. They've got to meet the level of care and have all these other, what we pretty much talked about before. With this, you're going to get not only the medical, like I said, but some life skills development, some supplies, personal supports, even residential services, in the home, support coordination, wellness, transportation, dental, waiver support coordinator. So adding on the APD services to someone with a developmental disability gives you a lot more supports than just medical Medicaid does. So when somebody turns 18, they are considered an adult. If they have, and they should apply for SSI, okay? Parents' income and resources no longer count. If they've already been on SSI, they need to get a redetermination at the age of 18. This establishes the disability prior to the age of 22 for that DAC benefit that I talked about, where you can switch over to collecting on the parent's record. Okay. So, it's really important. People say, well, I didn't get it prior to the age of 18. Well, everything changes. You need to go through that process. And also, of course, let's think about guardianship, because at 18, no longer the parents can't sign on technically on behalf of the child anymore. Who can make healthcare decisions, who can make financial decisions. So a lot of things to think about there. Converting SSI to SSDI, just a couple notes here. When you do convert, your to like the child, let's say you're on SSI, and you could be any age. You could be 30 years old, you're on SSI, you were disabled prior to the age of 22, and now your parent retires, okay? You can start collecting under your parent's record under this DAC benefit. Your payment now is going to go up. Maybe instead of the $914, maybe it's going to be $1,200. Okay. Your resources, though, even though you're on the SSDI now, you still have to keep. You're going to be able to keep your Medicaid, but your resources have to stay less than $2,000. So that's why it's really important to us as a trustee to understand what kind of benefits someone's on. It may appear that they're on SSDI, but they've got the Medicaid, and they have to stay within the $2,000 Medicaid limit. And you can't have like other income other than the SSDI payment, okay? Working while disabled protection. So a lot of people lose their Medicaid when they switch, but that's not supposed to happen under all these rules, okay? If you lose the Medicaid, we recommend that you fax a letter to the DCF office, talk to them about the SSI protected Medicaid, put your case number, all of that good stuff, provide the information on the award letters when you started SSI, when the SSDI, and also, when the SSDI came in, so you can get that Medicaid back, okay? And here's a nice chart for you that summarizes the differences in the SSI, SSDI, and the disabled adult child benefit. Okay, we've talked about these, but again, this is your nice chart to understand the differences, okay? So I'm going to run through a couple scenarios, examples for you. We have John, who was age 60, had a car accident at the age of 50. So he's now 10 years older. He became paralyzed from the waist down. He has high blood pressure, diabetes, COPD. He was a car mechanic for 25 years prior to the accident. So he worked, and he currently has $30,000 in savings. He did apply for disability soon after his accident. So what kind of disability would John be on? So it's going to be SSDI. He had a work record. He met that insured status. He's getting $1,800 a month based on his own work record. He's not on SSI, and he's not on that DAC benefit. He's collecting under his own record. So what kind of health insurance would John receive? After 2 years of being on the SSDI, or after that disability onset date, then he would get his Medicare. He's not automatically on Medicaid. John, in my example here, has too much income to collect to qualify for Medicaid, because Medicaid has programs as supplements to your Medicare to help supplement the Medicare and pay for things. But John's income's too high and his savings are too high for that. Now, if he could get his income and savings under the limit, and we help, then he could qualify for Medicaid also. We help a lot of people with our pooled trusts to get reduce their countable income and their countable assets in this very situation. So if you have anybody that needs that kind of help, give us a call. Look at some of our trainings on our website about pooled trust and getting QMB, Medicare, Medicaid when you have too much money. That would really help John here probably. Now we have Alice, who is 30. She's had cerebral palsy since birth, mild seizures. She's not able to work. She lives with her parents, who are bankers and attorneys. She has no savings of her own. So what type of disability benefit would she be on? Okay, so we're going to look to her age. She's 30. She's disabled since birth. So she applied probably at the age of 18 for disability and got put on SSI. She did not have a work record, so they're giving her that $914 a month. Why would she have not gotten SSI before the age of 18? Because her parents, as bankers and attorneys, were making too much money. She doesn't have a work record, so it's not SSDI. So she has SSI. So what kind of health insurance is she going to have? Medicaid, right? You get $1 of SSI, you can get your Medicaid. Will she have APD services? So if she applied as a younger person, or the parents applied for her and she got off the waiting list, she could be getting APD services through the iBudget. Probably no Medicare. Now, when her parents retire, what may happen with Alice? Her SSI payment could switch to the SSDI through the Disabled Adult Child Benefit. And she then would be collecting Social Security disability based on parents' record. This allows her to keep her Medicaid as long as her assets are under $2,000 and she has no other income. The Medicare starts 2 years after the DAC benefit. So sometimes we see somebody like this that we know, we have to act like, sleuths sometimes to figure out what kind of benefits we ask. But again, somebody like this that never worked, and you can ask the questions. But yet they're collecting SSDI. Well, it must be under somebody else's record, and they have Medicaid. Okay. So all of that's important to really understand. And so when you get the SSDI under that DAC benefit, you get your Medicare also after 2 years. So now you got Medicare, Medicaid, best of all worlds here. All right. This is the financial eligibility chart that came out in January of this year. It comes out once a quarter. The ICP numbers went up this year. A lot of you deal with nursing home clients or assisted living Medicaid. You can now have $2,742 in income, still a $2,000 countable asset. Okay. These are, all the different Medicaid programs for persons with disabilities. So again, in Florida, to get Medicaid, if you're under 65, you need to be collecting disability benefits. So that's another reason to apply for disability benefits, because we did not expand Medicaid. So in order to get Medicaid under the age of 65, you have to be considered to be disabled. Here's the website for applying for Social Security disability. We recommend that when you're applying, you answer yes to the question, do you want SSI? Even though you think maybe you're going to get the other benefit, the SSDI, go ahead and click yes in case you don't meet the requirements for being insured. Okay, now I believe they're still having phone interviews also with the applicant. I put my slide in on the different types of special needs trust because, like I said, all of our clients have some sort of disability. If they're collecting Medicaid and they get an inheritance, they sell, a home, they're going into a nursing home, whatever, they may need a trust to protect their Medicaid so they can qualify for Medicaid benefits. So I've wrapped up about 15 minutes early. Again, CEs, Kate will be sending out your information to you guardians, and we'll give certificates for everybody. So you can self-report. Generally, those get emailed out within a week. So look for an email from Kate at trustagent.org. And we do thank you for attending very much. We are doing monthly webinars.
Sharon, do you
now,
want them to
and
be able to ask questions?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna allow them to unmute themselves because I took that off. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself.
And we do have some questions in the chat also.
Sharon, can you hear me? This is Sylvia.
Yes. Hi, Sylvia.
How are you?
Good.
I love the examples that you gave, and I was wondering, when you have a community spouse and then you have the other spouse going into the nursing home, have you been able to help after the community spouse was able to keep the assets that are allowed for the community spouse? Were you able to then help with the pool special trust for the nursing home resident for those excess assets so that the nursing home resident could qualify for Medicaid? Do you have those types of examples as well?
Yes. Yes. You generally, they're working with an attorney like yourself, but yes, let's say the couple itself has $200,000. Well, that's, the community spouse is only allowed to have right now $148,000. Okay, so, what are you going to do with the rest, the extra $50,000? It can be put into a pool trust. Yes.
Okay, and I have
the individual that's going into the nursing home. The spouses can move money around, between themselves. So you leave the $50,000 with the spouse going into the nursing home. You put that money into pool trust, and then community spouse can still have their 148.
Can I have a follow-up, or do I need to give somebody else a chance?
Go ahead, we have time.
Okay. It doesn't happen very often, but when we have a small amount of money, let's say there's just, a widow or divorced, and they have 40 or 50,000, of course, which is in excess of the 2,000. Is that also a recommended amount, the excess over 2,000 that should go to the aged full special needs trust, so that they qualify for Medicaid, but possibly use that money at aged in their account to maybe upgrade from a Medicaid room to I don't know if you call it a private room or a non-Medicaid room at the facility? Is that true? I've heard that, but I haven't used that recommendation before. I want to know if that's a valid recommendation.
So we can pay for the differential between a semi-private room and a private room, and we do that, so you get Medicaid to pay, for a semi-private room, but you're actually in a private room, so the trust can pay for that differential.
What is normally that differential? That's where I don't have an idea for what that differential normally is.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anybody else have it? Somebody else might have experience with that. I couldn't say. I can tell you the average cost in a nursing home is $10,800 a month.
Correct.
Here's another question in the chat from Eileen.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at. Eileen wants to know, how much does aged charge for a QMB application and getting the applicant set up for the pool trust? I get requests for this service, but I'd prefer to refer it out. Okay. So Eileen, aged charges a fiduciary fee, a monthly fee, when somebody funds a trust with us. Our minimum monthly fee is $115. So, we have a fee schedule that's online. It's 2.5% of the market value is the annual fee with a minimum of $115 a month. So let's give you an example of somebody that needs QMB, and maybe they have they're putting $20,000 into the trust, or they could be putting $0 into the trust, but their income's too high. So we do a lot of trusts like that. Let's say somebody's making $2,000 a month and they need QMB to reduce their healthcare cost. Okay. They're over the QMB limit by almost $800. So every month we set up a transfer from checking into trust for $800. And then we take $115 fee and we pay their bills with the rest. Or the money can accumulate, or they can send us bills to pay, etc. One of the things with QMB to keep in mind is that the individual gets their Part B premium paid for them. So if they had $165 coming out of their Social Security check, when they get qualified, they're going to, now their check is going to go up by $165. So we're charging $115. In that case, they're actually making $50, and now they get all the benefits. Now, we do help with QMB applications as a company when the individual doesn't have very much money. So if the individual is working with an attorney, we're not going to do the application, the Medicaid application. If an individual has income only coming in, they're obviously not working with an attorney, and we will do we'll work. We have 2 benefit specialists that actually will do the application for the client. We also are at any time, no matter if you're working with an attorney or not, we're happy to help with documents. Like if the attorney says wants to draft the documents and send them to us, or if the attorney says go have agent help you fill out the documents, whatever, or don't have an attorney, then, we do all that for no charge. There is a setup fee. I always forget to talk about that. If there's more than 10,000 going into the trust, we charge $750 one-time fee. Okay, so fee schedule's online. Hopefully that answered your question. Are there any other questions in chat? Yeah, we will be emailing the PowerPoint presentation out afterwards.
Hi, Sharon.
Charges. Well, yeah, we don't charge extra for that QMB application. I have a question about people who can qualify for both SSI and SSDI. Okay, all right. So sometimes, this is a good question. Olivia asked about people that have both SSI and SSDI. So we see that sometimes, and that can sometimes be because they had a work record, but they didn't make very much money during their working years. So when they get the SSDI, it may only be like $600 a month. So the government says, we're going to bring you up to the standard, the minimal standard of 914. So they might get another $314 in SSI. So sometimes you see a combination of SSDI and SSI. Usually it's some kind of, it has to do with that. So I hope that.
Christina had a question following up.
Oh, I was just asking, I wanted to know what qualifies a person for being a non-citizen to receive the SSI. Is it
so
just
you would ask that question, and I cannot answer. I'm not, I don't know all the rules about citizenship versus not. If you're a resident alien, if you have a green card, then you're okay. Okay. But other than that, I mean, we do have people that, and I think you have to be here like 5 years or something. We've had people from other countries come here, and a year later they want Medicaid, and my understanding is they can't qualify.
Sharon,
So
one more
that's
question. On your asset limit chart, what is that? I think it was 13,000 or something like that. What is that disregard? What does that mean? I've been asking that for a few weeks now.
okay. Under
based community care program.
Yeah, so this is an interesting, they added this to the chart. It's for people that are working with a disability. They're actually allowed to have, the 13, the way I understand it, 13 plus the 2. They're going to disregard because they're working as an asset. You see that is a higher limit. So this is a home and community-based services program for people with that are working with a disability. They're allowed to have more income, and they're allowed to have more assets.
Which is strange, because for you to qualify, you need help with ADLs and everything. That's odd to me.
Well, it's not the normal program. Again, that's for working people with disabilities. And what that definition is, they're probably under one of these working programs, maybe that I was talking about or something like that. I've never had a case like that.
It's interesting. I wish they would increase the asset limit from 2,000, but wishful thinking. Right.
I know. I don't know why I guess they want to put it at, because it's the home and community-based program. It's one of the long-term care programs. You're supposed to only have $2,000, but then they're going to let you have a little bit more. It's kind of like when, some of the way they calculate working income too. They don't count all of the working income and stuff like that. There's disregards down there too.
Olivia had a question in the chat.
Is it possible for someone who got both SSI and SSDI in low amounts to start getting a higher amount of SSDI under parent social security number after parent's deceased? Probably, because if you're disabled and you have a parent that dies, I mean, you definitely should talk to Social Security about which record you may be able to collect under. So, but you have to have been disabled prior to the age of 22 for to collect under the parent's deceased record. Okay. So
And just to add to that,
social-
sometimes you get both. Sometimes you get your own Social Security, and as the adult disabled child, you are collecting off of the parent.
that makes sense. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So lots of rules with Social Security, but it's always a good idea if you have it, it's recognizing, oh, this may be an event. I need to talk to Social Security. My client, my ward might be able to get more money. So alrighty. So does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. We appreciate all of you, and our next webinar in March, on March 15th, I'm going to do, I haven't done one in a while on just, pooled trust, QMB, the ICP, nursing home benefit, really kind of explain, when you might want to think about using a trust like that for somebody, and what kind of benefits they can get by using the trust and qualifying for, these benefits. It's really all about extending the life of the money and getting better health care. So I'm going to do a presentation on that. And then in April, we believe we're going to have a presenter on VA benefits, which we've never done before. So I'm excited about that. So stay tuned, look on our website, check our emails, and I really thank you very much for attending today. Bye-bye.